Hello and welcome to Dark Turn. I'm Ava, and I'll be narrating true stories for you. Before we get into tonight's story, please don't forget to like the video. It really helps a lot. Now let's dive into tonight's story. He picked up my top with a kind of longing and said, "I really love this one. It's so pretty. That little bow right here, those soft, delicate straps. It's so cute and girly. I really love it." It wasn't the first time Sepan showed interest in my clothes. He always liked them, but not in the way a husband might like what his wife wears. It was different. I could feel it. It was envy. Like he wished that the clothes were his, not mine. Sepan and I were cousins. My mom and his mom were sisters. We got married really young. I was 16, he was 18. 10 years had passed since then, and we had 3 kids together, 1 daughter and 2 sons. I worked at a beauty salon, mostly doing makeup, sometimes lash extensions, and that kind of stuff. Sepan had jobs here and there, but he kept getting fired. Not really because of his attitude, more because he wasn't physically strong. He was thin and frail, not the kind of man made for hard labor. At least, that's what I used to tell myself, that he just didn't have luck. He'd work maybe 2 days a week, then spend the rest of the time either out looking for another job or sitting in a room depressed, crying. Lately, things hadn't been good between us. We hadn't slept together in 7 or 8 months. Every time it came up, we'd end up fighting. But in every other way, he was my companion, my only listener. No one else understood me. Not my family, not my siblings. I was 26. If I painted my nails, my family would frown at me. "Why are you wearing nail polish? You're a married woman, not a single girl." They hated it when I took care of myself, and all those feelings, I could only share them with Sepan. He was still holding my top in his hand, staring at it with that same strange longing. I gave him a sarcastic smile and said, "Damn you, Sepan. Damn my own fate. What kind of husband are you, huh? Why do you look at my clothes like that? What, you want to wear them? Go ahead, put it on. You're not ashamed of anything anyway." He threw the top at my face and laughed, then lay down on the bed. I folded the last piece of laundry, put it in the drawer, and said, "The kids are asleep. I'm gonna sleep too. Please don't make any noise. If they wake up, it'll be hell getting them back to sleep." After 7 or 8 months, he suddenly grabbed my hand. "Can you not go? Just sit with me for a while before you go." I was tired, but I sat down. "What's wrong, Sepan? Need money again?" He leaned back against the pillow and said quietly, "No, it's not about money. I just wanted to talk for a bit." "Talk? About what?" I sighed. "What do we even have left to talk about?" He exhaled deeply and looked down. "Chitty, you know, you're really beautiful." Tears welled up in my eyes. "Yeah, that's what everyone at the salon says too. They always tell me how pretty I am." He smiled faintly. "They're right. You are." I choked up and said, "What's the point?" "I'll never forgive my mom," he asked gently. "Because she forced you to marry me so young?" I blinked rapidly, tears falling now. "No, because—" He placed his hand on mine. "It's okay. Say it." But I broke down crying. I had never spoken to him like that before. I had never insulted him, never blamed him for anything. I always tried to understand him because he understood me. But that night, something in me snapped. Through tears, I said, Sepan, sometimes when I see other men, I feel something. I realized I was too young when I got married. I didn't know what I was doing. Now I've got 3 kids, and when I see men who are tall, broad-shouldered, with good jobs, nice cars, men who provide for their wives, I can't help it. I start to wish I had that kind of husband. I looked him right in the eyes and said, honestly, I just wish I had a man like that, someone strong, manly. I miss that kind of energy. He looked at me calmly, almost expressionless, and said softly, I wish I had that too. I blinked in disbelief, then burst out laughing. God damn you, Sepan. I'm being serious here. What are you even saying? Sometimes I wish you were my husband, that you were just my friend, because as a friend, you'd be the best. But as a husband, you're terrible. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to hurt your pride, but I'm still a woman. I need a man. And you're not that. You can't even hold a job. You let your nails grow long, and last week I bought a face mask for myself, and you used it before I even opened it. Whenever we argued, he'd get scared, rush into the house, and lock the door. I told him, you're just too soft, Sepan. I don't like weak men. He sat up, his eyes trembling a little, and whispered, Jitty, there's something I've been wanting to tell you. Something I've carried inside me for years. But I can't hold it in anymore. I stayed silent, just staring at him. His eyes were full of tears, which wasn't new. Sepan crying at home was normal. He wiped his tears and said, I want to be a woman, Jitty. I don't want to be a man anymore. I want to wear skirts. I want to live in this world as a woman. I envy you. I envy the way you go to the salon, the way you live as a woman. When I see those men you talk about, the ones with strong, masculine energy, I like them too, Jitty. What should I do? I think I'm done fighting it. I swear, if someone had told me he'd gone crazy, I would have believed it. Because he'd always done strange, unpredictable things. But hearing him say that, I was completely shocked. My mind froze. My eyes went wide as I stared at him, speechless. He was crying, his shoulders shaking delicately, talking about how much he longed for the sweetness of being a woman. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Just imagine your husband, the father of your 3 children, crying and telling you he wants to become a woman. He talked for hours about his sadness, about the things he'd been hiding. When I finally looked at the clock, it was 4 a.m. He had been talking for 4 straight hours. I don't know what you would have done in my place, but I just broke down crying. I looked at him with so much pain. How could someone live with that kind of burden? You can't really understand it, not until you experience it yourself, or someone close to you goes through it. It's a pain beyond words. I told him, go to a doctor. See a psychologist. Maybe they can help you. He wiped his tears and said, I already did. Remember when I told you I lost my wedding ring? I didn't lose it. I sold it to pay for some medical tests. They told me my body has more female hormones than male. They were even shocked that I managed to have 3 kids. Then he looked down and said quietly, I've made up my mind, Jitty. There's no cure for me. Either I end my life or I change my gender. I froze. My eyes widened again. How can you even do something like that? I whispered. He looked at me and said softly, Do you still have that gold necklace? Give it to me. I can sell it to pay for the surgery. Once I recover, I'll work hard and pay you back in 2 months. I actually laughed through my tears. And what are you going to do for work? He gave me a little wink and said, once I change, I'll turn this place into heaven. That made me laugh even harder, a kind of nervous, exhausted laugh. Are you messing with me? It's 5 in the morning. But then he swore, on our children's lives, that he was serious, that he really wanted me to give him my necklace so he could pay for gender surgery. I sighed, tired and disgusted. You haven't even spent a dime on your kids. You're always broke, crying or listening to sad songs, and now you're saying all this nonsense? You make me sick. I'm not giving you anything. Go ask your dad for money. Do whatever you want. He put his hand over mine and said, you've got so much pain inside, Jitty. While everyone else was out living, you were raising kids. When the other girls had boyfriends, you were stuck with me, a useless man, less of a man than most women. You've got so many regrets. But I'll make it up to you. I'll fix everything. Once I come back from my surgery, I'll change your life, make it exciting again. I snapped. Still shaking with anger and disbelief, I stood up and said, I'm not giving you the necklace. Do whatever you want. I walked out of the room and went to lie down next to the kids. Honestly, part of me didn't even mind if he did change his gender, because my parents had always told me I could never, under any circumstance, get a divorce. But if he did something like that, I'd finally have a reason. I looked at my children's faces, thinking, with 3 kids, I'll never have a perfect marriage again. But at least I'll never be stuck with someone like him. I slept for about 20 minutes, then woke up at 7:30 and went to the salon. That day, I had a bride's makeup to do. While I was working, his words kept echoing in my head. I still couldn't believe it. So I asked a few of the girls at the salon. They were pretty open-minded. What does it even mean when someone says they want to change their gender? Part 4. At first, they laughed. Then one of them explained, it's about hormones. They can't control it. Most of them go through surgery eventually. It's not their fault. They're born that way. They're sick, Jitty. The best thing people can do is understand them. After finishing the bride's makeup, I went to see the psychologist Sepan had mentioned. We lived in a small town. There was only one well-known therapist there. And apparently, Sepan had been seeing him. I begged the receptionist to let me see the doctor for just 15 minutes without an appointment. When I finally sat down with him, I said, last night my husband told me he wants to change his gender. He said he's been coming here for therapy. Can he be cured? Can he be treated? The doctor shook his head firmly. No. He's one of the cases that can't be cured. It's only a matter of time before he transitions. The best thing you can do is accept it and start planning for your children's future. When I realized Sepan hadn't been lying, that he really had been seeing a psychologist, and that his condition was serious, I left and headed home. On the way, I thought about his childhood. His father was rich, had money, but never helped him. Still, I knew that if it came down to it, his father would take care of the kids. Then I remembered what Sepan's childhood was like. He'd been spoiled beyond belief. His parents wouldn't even let him move his own pillow, afraid he might hurt his back. Everything was handed to him, ready-made. They expected him to study, but he never read a single page. They'd raised him to be weak, dependent, and later, when I learned more about people like him, I realized something. So many of their problems start right there, with how their parents raise them. It all comes down to parents and how they raise their sons. When you paint a little boy's nails, put lipstick on him for fun, never let him lift anything heavy, never let him push himself, you're killing his masculinity before it ever grows. The male hormones stop developing properly, and things like this happen. My uncle was the same way. He'd gone through a tough childhood himself and didn't want his son to struggle, so he spoiled Sepan completely. Later, when Sepan grew up and turned out to be helpless and weak, my uncle abandoned him, wouldn't give him a single penny. When I finally got home that day, I unlocked the door and walked inside. The smell of tachin filled the house. Beef and eggplant tachin, my favorite. And suddenly it hit me. Why did it take me so long to realize this man wasn't really a man? What kind of man cooks tachin so perfectly that its aroma fills the whole house? From across the room, I saw him, with lipstick on as usual. He always said, "My lips get dry, that's why I use it." I smirked bitterly, took off my coat, tossed my bag on the floor, and hugged the kids. He was holding our youngest in his arms. When he handed him to me, I noticed how neatly he'd braided our daughter's hair. So beautifully done. My heart sank. It had been so obvious. How had I not seen it before? Sometimes the signs are so close to you that you just stop seeing them. After dinner, while I was folding up the tablecloth, I heard something that froze me. My daughter Nava, she was 8, was in the kitchen and she called him Aunt Sepita. At first, I thought I'd misheard. Then I listened again, clear as day. "Aunt Sepita, aren't you going to have some of that apple compote you made?" And Sepan, or Sepita, bent down and answered her in that soft, sickly sweet tone. "Wait till my food digests, honey. Then I'll bring you some compote. Have you finished your homework, little one?" I swallowed hard. He'd even prepared the kids for this. Nava was 8, my son was 7, and the youngest was 5. They were all so close to him. Maybe you're wondering how all of this happened so fast. But it wasn't fast. It had all been happening right in front of me. He talked to the psychologist. He'd gotten hospital paperwork. He'd made every arrangement. The last person he told was me. And I'd been too busy working, too focused on making money and keeping the house running, too distracted to see what was right in front of me. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late to argue. He went through with the surgery. When our families found out, all hell broke loose. There were fights, screaming, chaos. His father, a tall, broad man, tried to beat him. But before he could, he collapsed from the shock, and half his face went numb. My aunt, Sepan's mother, cried and screamed, hitting herself. It was pure madness. But despite everything, Sepan still went through with it. He was completely alone. No one went with him to the hospital. And as much as I hated him, I couldn't let him go by himself. We had grown up together. We'd shared so many years, both good and bad. So I went with him. Our 3 kids stayed with my aunt. The surgery was brutal. 40 days in the hospital. I don't know if it's that hard for everyone, but for him, it was hell. When he finally came home, he said he wanted to see the kids. I looked at him, at the implants, at the new body, and said quietly, "I don't think that's a good idea right now. You should wait a while. It'll confuse them." He looked hurt, almost crushed. He cried a lot those days. He loved his new reflection. But the loneliness, the rejection, the fact that he couldn't see his children, it broke him. I could see the depression in his eyes. At the same time, my own family had finally started to understand me. How much pain I was in, how badly I wanted to leave this marriage. But it was too late. What good was their understanding now? Whenever they called begging me to come home, I ignored them. Eventually, I just turned off my phone completely. What did I need parents like that for? A mother who chose her sister over me? A father who cared more about his reputation than his daughter's happiness? Now, out of that same obsession with honor, they wanted me to come back home so they could control me again and probably find me another husband. I stayed in the house that Sapan's father had bought for us, half in my name, half in his. Now his name was Sepida. Every morning, Sepida would wake up, do her makeup flawlessly, I might add, better than mine, even though I was a professional makeup artist. I'd watch her in disbelief. She'd do her hair, put on one of my dresses, and start taking selfies like a teenager. I couldn't understand her anymore. I was exhausted from life, from everything. 3 months passed. I'd visit my aunt's house, sometimes to see the kids, play with them for a while, and then go back to the empty home, to the person who used to be my husband and was now a stranger named Sepida. My aunt was taking such good care of the kids that they barely felt my absence. When I went over there, they treated me like a guest, the mom who just showed up sometimes to play. I'd spend time with them, make sure they ate well, sometimes bathe them, and then go back home. After 3 or 4 months, I started getting used to Sepida. I had accepted that this was who she was now, and that nothing I said or did could change it. All I could do was learn to live with it. Almost 4 months had passed since she came back home. One night, I was sitting on the couch, cracking sunflower seeds while some dumb movie was playing on TV. It was around 10 at night. She was sitting next to me, scrolling on her phone. I noticed her long nails and said, "So, you got your nails done?" She smiled and said, "Yeah." "You like them?" In my head, I thought, "You may be thin, but those are still a man's hands." But out loud, I just nodded. "Yeah, they're nice." Then she suddenly asked, "Jitty, how much do they pay you at the salon?" I tucked my hair behind my ear. "For each makeup job, about 100 to 150. She looked surprised. "You've been working all this time for that?" "I went to this really fancy salon today. They said I'm great at braiding and styling, and they hired me on the spot. The salary is triple what you make." Imagine how much they'd pay someone who actually does makeup. "You should quit that old place and come work with me. It's classier and pays better." I asked her for the details, and she even called the salon right then, got all the info for me. She wasn't wrong. It was a much better deal. So the next day, we both went there together, signed contracts, and started working side by side. On the bus ride, sitting next to her, I couldn't help but laugh to myself. My husband had somehow become my best friend. After work, since the salon was in the fancy part of town, she would flirt with everyone. She even found me a rich boyfriend. I had never been that kind of woman before, but she pulled me into that life. She had one too, of course. Every morning we left home around 5:30 or 6, worked at the salon till evening. then went out with our boyfriends, partied, laughed, lived like there was no tomorrow. It felt so wild and freeing, like I had finally found a friend who was down for everything. I was experiencing things I'd never even imagined for myself. If someone had told me I'd ever live this way, I wouldn't have believed them. 7 months had passed since her surgery when she said she wanted to see the kids. I went and brought them home. They greeted her naturally. Own sabit. Happy about her new look. She made their favorite pizza and even told them bedtime stories. We decided that now that we were earning good money, we wouldn't leave the kids with my aunt anymore. But after thinking about it, we realized we were out of the house all day, and the kids would be miserable if left alone. So we made a plan. Tuesdays would be our day off. We'd spend it with the kids, take them out, have fun. The rest of the week, they'd stay with my aunt, who took amazing care of them anyway. That's how our new life began. People around us were stunned, whispering, gossiping, judging. But we didn't care. We were living the life we wanted, and we were happy. My aunt only had one child, Sepan, and never had more. She was still young, so she raised my kids like her own. She took them to school, played with my youngest, even went to therapy sessions to help them cope. She wanted to make sure they never felt abandoned. Seeing that made me feel calm. They had everything they needed. Every Tuesday, full of energy, we'd pick up the kids, go out, shop for them, and by night, drop them back off. The rest of the week, it was just me and Sapita. Most nights, we didn't even go home. We'd crash at our boyfriends' places, go to crazy parties, meet new people, laugh, drink, dance. We were living fast and loving it. Then one day, out of all the people who came and went from my life, I fell in love. He was 40, much older than me, but I didn't care. I was 27, but I looked barely 20. Short, petite, baby-faced. He had gray hair at the temples, a deep voice, and that calm confidence that only comes with age. When I met him, I fell hard, but he didn't seem interested. I'd borrow Sapita's clothes to try and impress him. She was doing way better than me. She didn't just rely on salon work. She had other ways of making money. But that wasn't me. I wasn't that kind of woman. Just having a man in my life, someone to go out with, talk to, someone who made me feel alive again. That was enough for me. I wasn't chasing excitement or variety. I just wanted to feel wanted. During that time, I still had a boyfriend. But everything changed when I met Mr. Akbari. He was the real owner of the salon. Charismatic, confident. There was something about him that pulled me in right away. I told Sapita one night, I really like Mr. Akbari a lot. I think I want to marry him. She smirked. Marry him? Don't be stupid. He's never going to marry you. But sure, if you want him, I can teach you how to make him fall for you for a while. I ignored her sarcasm. I was too deep in it, too in love. Every day I'd talk about Akbari to her, tell her how amazing he was, how handsome, how smart. I didn't even realize I was planting the same feelings in her heart. And before I knew it, Sapita went after him herself. She flirted with him, got close, and soon they were together. That was my first real heartbreak. A quiet, painful one. I was furious, but we were still living under the same roof. We shared food, shared space, shared kids. So I swallowed my pride and let it go. They dated for maybe 2, 3 weeks, 15, 20 days at most. Then broke up. That was just how Sepita was. She never stayed with any man for long. It was like she was addicted to new attention, as if she needed constant proof that she could still attract anyone she wanted. After they split, I lost all interest in Akbari. I just focused on work, and sometimes met my boyfriend in the evenings, though even that was fading. He was getting ready to get married, and I didn't want to interfere. So I stopped calling, stopped asking to meet. If he called, fine, I'd go. If not, I'd let it be. One evening, as I was leaving the salon, it started pouring rain. That's when I saw Akbari's car parked right in front. I hesitated for a second, then greeted him. He nodded. Get in. I'll drive you home. I told him I could manage, but he insisted, so I got in. When he asked for my address and realized I lived with Sepita, he looked surprised. You live with her? I nodded. Yeah. I don't really have my own place. I'm with Sepita. He sighed. I've heard about you. You seem like a good girl, but stop hanging around that trans Sepita. She'll ruin your image. I had to hold back my laugh. No matter how hard Sepan, now Sepita, tried to act feminine, people always noticed. Trying not to giggle, I said, I'll try, but I don't really have a choice. We live together. Besides, she's not that bad. As a roommate, she's fine. He frowned. That's not the point. She'll ruin your social image. I smirked. I honestly don't care about my social image. I don't care what people say or think about me. The only thing that matters is my own peace of mind. He gave a small laugh. I've met a lot of people who say they don't care about judgment, but you might be the first one who actually doesn't. Then he asked, how did you even meet Sepita? I swallowed hard. She's the father of my kids. He hit the brakes, stunned. What? I gave him a faint smile. Yeah. We got married really young. I knew from the beginning something was off, but when I told my parents I wanted a divorce, they refused. They said it would shame the family. I begged them, but they wouldn't listen. They forced me to stay. If they hadn't cared so much about what people thought, maybe things would have turned out differently. I wouldn't have been trapped in a marriage that broke me. I wouldn't have 3 kids growing up without a father figure. I could have built my own life long ago, but they cared more about reputation than my happiness. He was silent. I kept going quietly. Now Sepita has transitioned. My kids live with their grandmother. I work, save money, dream of opening my own salon one day, and bringing my kids back to live with me. That's all I want, nothing more. He drove the rest of the way in silence. When we reached home, he asked for my number. I gave it to him. That night, I didn't feel any spark anymore. The attraction was gone. The next day, he texted me, said he wanted to talk. We met at a restaurant. He didn't waste time with small talk. I'm giving you my salon, he said. You'll manage everything. You won't need to work hands-on anymore. In return, you'll raise 5 kids. Your 3 and my 2. He paused, looking straight into my eyes. If things go well, I'll marry you in a year. If not, I'll fire you from the salon. He leaned back, his tone firm. If you're with me, you'll never have to worry about money again. You and your kids will always be taken care of. But there's one rule. You don't question me. You don't ask where I go or who I'm with. I own 20 salons. You stay home, raise the kids, and forget about your ex-husband. You're not like him. You're a good woman. Don't let him ruin you. And honestly, he was right. So I said yes. It just wasn't in my nature to stay out partying all night and wake up in the morning not even knowing where I was or who I'd been with. Those few times I went, I was fooled. I thought it was the excitement of life. But now, all I wanted was to have my kids with me. Having them and some financial security was enough. I agreed to his offer and we wrote a contract between us. I went to my aunt and told her I wanted to take the kids with me. She disagreed and said she wouldn't allow it. I told her, the kids need their mother more than they need you. Let me take them. If I can't handle it, I'll bring them back. I packed my children's things and went to Akbari's house. Hamid was a good man. I was scared those days, especially about taking my daughter, but I went anyway. When I got there, I found out he had 2 daughters, one the same age as my girl, and the other a bit older. From morning till night, I took care of all 5 kids, helped with homework, cooked, and stopped going to the salon. The salon was still running with its old manager, and since he paid me enough, there was no need to go there and deal with Sepida and all that drama. Sepida used to call all the time, saying she was lonely and scared at night. I changed my number and told her not to bother me. I grew close to Hamid's daughters, though at first, they didn't warm up to me. I brushed their hair, ironed their clothes, did everything a mother would do. I felt like I was finally making up for what I'd missed with my own kids, and I took it as a sign from God that he had given me another chance. At first, Hamid rarely came home, but gradually, he got attached to the house, to the laughter of 5 cheerful kids, to the smell of food cooking, and to a woman who took care of herself but wasn't sure if she could ever catch his eye. He started spending more time at home. Eventually, he brought me into his room. The girls had one room, the boys another. At the dinner table, he'd smile and say he'd always loved a noisy, lively home. His daughters, who used to be quiet and distant, had become happier since my kids came. Every time I saw that, I thanked God for the peace he'd brought into their lives. 7 years passed. Hamid and I got married officially. Sometimes he still sneaks around, but I ignore it. What else can I do? Occasionally, he travels abroad, and I know he's not alone. Sometimes I hear he's seeing other women, but he's a man who craves variety. There's no fixing that. I have no choice but to tolerate it. I focus on raising my kids and enjoying the financial stability we have. He takes us on trips, he's kind to me, and I make sure to always look my best, to stay visible in his eyes. He must love me, otherwise he wouldn't have married me and kept me here. He's provided every comfort for us, even if he isn't a completely faithful man. I just hope that as he nears 50, he'll finally settle down, God willing. Every now and then, I secretly chat with Sepida. She's found a rich boyfriend, travels to Europe, sometimes to Dubai. Her life seems good, fun, exciting. She has no desire to see the kids, and honestly, I don't want her to. She's living the life she wanted, and I'm here raising the kids, thankful for what I have. My aunt visits sometimes, and on weekends the kids go to her place. But Hamid's daughters, Dorsa and Elsa, miss the others so much they can't stay long and rush back home. I'm lucky they all love each other and never fight. I truly thank God for that. I do everything for all 5 of them, whatever a mother can do. I just hope I've made up for the years I worked too much or was too depressed. I pray they've forgiven me and moved on from the past. And that's my life story, the one everyone in my neighborhood still talks about. I wanted to share it because I thought it was a strange, unbelievable story. I really wanted to tell it to you guys. Please leave me a comment. I read every single one. I'd love to know what you think of me. Don't hold back. All right, friends, that's the end of this story. I hope you enjoyed it. It was wild and emotional. I was honestly shocked when I first heard it myself. I hope I told it well for you. I love you all so much. Give me the motivation to stay up late and record another story for tomorrow. Love you guys. Take care and goodbye.